Okay. Season 1, Episode 1 of Real Talks with Sidney. So, let me just start by saying I've been racking my brain really for weeks leading up to announcing that I was creating a YouTube channel. Um, and then just the last few days and then the last 24 hours, like, what do I say? I mean, I have been like really overanalyzing this and thinking like it has to be perfect, and no, it doesn't. So I just wanted to be fully transparent that I was sitting on the couch a few minutes ago, stuck in my head about it and putting it off and thinking like, I don't know how to start it, what to say, it needs to be epic. No, it doesn't. And so I just made the decision that I was going to make this episode right here, right now. I walked into my office, pushed record, and here I am. So, um, what I've decided that I want to talk about on this first episode is just um, a little bit about how I ended up becoming a coach, and then maybe getting into like what coaching is, the kind of coaching that I do, and and just explain a little bit about that. But anyway, but starting off, I think it's important to talk about my story leading up to coaching. Now, when I say my story, I don't want to limit myself to one, because anyone who watches a lot of my YouTube videos going forward is going to learn that I have had so many, I like to call them life phases. But my story is expansive. Everyone's story is expansive. But again, I don't want to limit it to just one piece. And it's hard for me sometimes. When I'm talking, I get carried away and I want to go down these rabbit trails and talk about, oh, well, that leads me to talk about this experience and this experience. So what I'm going to focus on doing is keeping it as tight as I can per episode. Otherwise, I could talk for ages about all the things that I'm very excited to share and just talk about on this channel. So, welcome to my first episode. I will be talking today about my journey to coaching. So, here we go. Um, so, this is 2020. So, I want to say um, about, well, let's start with, okay. So, little background about my education. I have a bachelor's in finance and a master's in accounting from the University of North Carolina, Wilmington. I graduated from grad school and started working for a big four accounting firm, for Deloitte and Touche at the time. I think now it's just Deloitte. And so I was an auditor, and I did that for a few years. And then I moved to Tampa, Florida, where I worked for a big financial company, and I was an auditor there. And then what I realized, and I'm not going to go too into all this, but what I realized is that the auditing life, the world of accounting in corporate America, was not for me. I did not fit in at all. And it was very apparent over my years in corporate that it was just, I mean, I stuck out like a sore thumb. I was passionate about human connection, people. I couldn't conform to the general expectation of corporate. It was, it was such a bad fit. It's like square hole round peg, or however you want to say that. It just was so bad, and I have tons of stories around that, which is crazy. But anyway, so I went to a recruiter when I was working for the financial company. I went to a recruiter to try to help me find something else, at least just to get me out of that job. And what I found was talking to a guy named Frank, who ultimately ended up becoming my boss because he hired me to be a recruiter. So I realized, like, in recruiting, it was like, oh, I get to have people connection and help people find, opportunities that are much better than what they have now, and coach them a little bit on, what it means to grow your career. And it just was so fascinating to me. So I was like, yeah. So I did that and got very good at it for about 5 years. And a few years into that, I met my now husband. And so we got engaged in about 2015, actually, November of 2015. And we knew right then and there that we wanted to have kids. Um, I had nearly given up on the idea that I might be able to have children at that point, um, because I was just kind of in lots of relationships that didn't work, and failed relationship after failed relationship, and high hopes for all of them. And then my relationship before Dave, I was with someone who turned out to be a complete sociopath. Who, this is another story that I will go into another time. But I feared for my life after we broke up, and I tried to take him to court for stalking. It was a whole thing, and at that point, I just had to really dig within and say, like, okay, what's going on here? Like, I've got to up my standards. I have got to figure out myself and find some kind of confidence in myself, to keep me from going into just these relationships that aren't working. And of course, like, I've always wanted to have children. I always did. And I wanted a big family. And I was like, I can't give up hope that my soulmate is out there, that there's a good person for me who's going to love me for who I am and see me for, the good in me, and see past all the flaws, because at the time I had a lot of things I need to work through. So anyway, when I met my husband Dave in 2000, well, no, I'm sorry. I did not get engaged to him in 2015. I met him in January of 2015. We got engaged in November of 2017. Okay, there you go. Um, so anyway, I say all of this to, when I met him, let me just tell you, it was instant. Um, what it wasn't, it was not, oh my God, I'm so in love with him. Um, it wasn't like this insane, sense of crazy butterflies and da, da. I mean, it was that to a degree, but my first date with him was nothing but peace and ease and simple. And he just balanced me out. Like, I'd never met anyone who completely was the actual balance to me on a scale. Like, we were completely even just in that first date. That's how it felt. Like, I told him my, crazy old stories about me in the first date, and he was, you would think that, and he laughs about it, like he would have just left and disappeared and been like, see you later, you're a little cray for me. But but he didn't. He was just so patient. Anyway, again, my rabbit trails. So this is about getting into coaching. So I say all of this leading up to, um, we dated. We got engaged in November of 2017, and again, we knew we wanted to have children. I mean, it was really important. So I went to a doctor OB appointment, just a regular, pap smear or whatever. And I said, is there anything that you can, like, test just to see, like, if I can have kids? Because at the time I was, what, 35 maybe ish. Um, I don't know, 35. The numbers are escaping me, but anyway, I was like, I've never gotten pregnant. I'm just curious, can I have kids? Is there something you can test? And so they did. Um, they ran some tests, and long story short, it turns out that my ability to have kids was like slim to none. Um, and so I did not believe that. I'll never forget the day that I got the call about that. And um, my heart just broke in a way that I had never experienced before. And I couldn't believe it. And I was in denial. And I said, these doctors don't know anything. Um, I'm going to make this happen. I can do this. My body wants to do this. I know it's on my heart. My body can do this. And so I started this whole holistic journey. We spent a lot of money working with one naturopath in particular who had a pretty good reputation for just working on getting my hormones right. And I was believing that, I mean, wholeheartedly, that my story, I'm big on my story was going to be like, I had kids and I did this and my body did this and my relationship with God, and it was all just a miracle story. And we did this for a while, and it never happened. Nothing changed really. Um, and during that time, I ended up quitting my job as a recruiter because the doctor I was working with, or the naturopath, if you will, was saying, your job is so stressful. It was. And if you're going to have a chance with this, then with getting pregnant, then you really need to eliminate the stress in your life. So I quit my job. And I got to tell you, like, at first I was thinking, this is amazing. I don't have to get up and go to work anymore. Like, I don't have a job. Awesome. I can just do whatever the heck I want. And I have an amazing supportive fiance who's going to see me through this and support us financially, something I never thought was going to be possible for me. Um, and I just was like, wow, life is good. I hit the jackpot. Now I just got to focus on getting pregnant, and I'm going to get pregnant. And time went by. I'd say about a year went by. And in that year, I started on a slippery slope of getting very sad and depressed. And my whole life became about getting pregnant. And it wasn't working and nothing was changing. And I can just remember all the beliefs I had about my body failing me and just being angry with God and angry with myself and blaming myself for all the ways that I was harsh on my body in my earlier years, and the guilt and the shame. And then top that off with the fact that I wasn't bringing in any money into our relationship. And I, just became like a slob on the couch watching Netflix. And, um, and it was a slippery slope. And I went into a very hardcore depression. I mean, any of my friends um, that knew me then knew that I just was not at all me. And I was lost and I was afraid and I was sad and I was angry. And it was a very hard time for me. And finally, what I want to say about that is, in that, about the same time, we decided. So after about a year of that, Dave and I decided that we were going to turn to um, fertility help, like the reproductive group, to try IVF, in vitro. And I didn't want to, and it was a hard transition, but we were desperate. And so, about that time also, I just remember being at a low, and I just had no purpose. I had no reason to get up in the morning, and everything in my identity was wrapped around becoming a mom. And it was not working, so I was just failing, right? And so, kind of lots of things happened, but I want to bring it to this one in particular moment that really changed for me. A dear old coworker of mine called me one day and we were having a conversation, and I was just really transparent. I tried to hide that I was the way I was feeling from most people. I internalized all of it and I was embarrassed by it. And I'm having this conversation with her, and I just broke down and I said, I'm just so unhappy and I have no purpose. I have no reason to wake up in the morning. And I don't remember the exact words that happened, but what I took away from is that she kind of turned this around for me and she said, okay, well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about something you can do that's going to give you purpose. So we used to work together in recruiting. And so she said, well, let's talk about what you're good at. And we started just going through this, what was I good at in recruiting? Well, I loved helping people. I loved talking to people about where they were now and helping them identify their goals and get to where they wanted to be. Plain and simple, that was like my specialty. And I was able to really connect with people. I have such empathy, and I was just, I wasn't good at the salesy parts of it, but I was really good at the connection and just the genuine desire to really see people excel in their lives and make more money and feel better about themselves. And, I just naturally had that gift. And so she and I both kind of were like, well, what about coaching? What about life coaching? And to be honest, I didn't really know exactly what coaching was at the time. And so I did a little bit of research. I literally was like, what is life coaching after we hung up the phone? And I just watched some YouTube videos and I was like, what? This is a real thing? Because everything I learned about was like things that were me. It was my identity, like served on a silver platter right there. Just from a young age, I've always been like this. I've always been a wisdom seeker, a spiritual seeker. I've always wanted to help people. I've always been able to see the potential in other people, in myself, not so much, a little bit, but not so much. And I've come so far in that. Um, but yeah, it just blew my mind. And I was just like, if I ever had a purpose, this is it. And from that moment, I knew. And that same day, I called an old friend of mine that I knew had gone through life coaching school, and I knew she really liked the school that she went to. And I said, what school did you go to? She told me it was IPEC. And I said, boom, in, done. There was no question. I said to my husband, like, this is what I want to do. I have absolutely no doubt. I have never been more confident about anything in my life. I know it's my purpose. I know it's, this is the step. This is the answer. And like, I think a day or two later, I was signed up. And I had to talk to like the recruiter for the school. And I was like, yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm in. Sign me up. I don't care. And it was amazing. And so I can honestly say I started. When did I start? I started. I can't remember if it was late. I think it was kind of early 2018 um, that I started, and I finished school at the end of 2018. And on another episode, I'm going to, of course, dive into what coaching has taught me and what it did for me. I mean, my friends and I talk about how coaching school's kind of more or less for the coach. Um, you learn so much about yourself and how to just completely raise your consciousness, and what your old limiting beliefs have been that have kept you small your whole life, and just learning to change your mind and mindset, and literally create the life that you want, the dream, and that nothing is impossible. Everything, in fact, is possible. And it's all up here, right? So this completely changed for me. And so so actually I may have my timeline off a little bit. I think I started with the in vitro process before I started coaching. Before I started coaching school. It's a little gray in the area, but either way, the big shift for me was the decision to do coaching, and aligning with my purpose, and just knowing in my whole being that that was for me. Meanwhile, I was going through the IVF process and of getting eggs, putting the eggs together, getting embryos, and so the my infertility journey, again, a whole nother thing. Anyone who's dealt with infertility in any kind of way, whether it's not being able to get pregnant, or miscarriages, or anything, when you're trying to start a family and you can't, it's deep. It's real deep. And when I was in coaching school, I thought that that was all I was going to be doing, was focusing. At one point, I was like, "Oh, this is my mission. I'm going to work with women who are struggling with infertility." But now I know that it's much more than that, much wider. But that was that was a crazy journey, and we went through 3 rounds of IVF. So where basically they put the embryo in you, and you wait 2 weeks to find out if it worked, and you're pregnant. And those two, talk about an emotional roller coaster each time. The first 2 times failed, and the depression I went into there was, I mean, I remember just journaling through that time, and it was dark. It was so dark. And again, my failing body, my body, my blame, my guilt, my shame, your mind just goes down the tubes of what you did to deserve this, how you screwed up, all your bad decisions just come flooding in. So that was a journey, and it finally, in February of 2019, we found out that, no, wait, okay. Our third embryo went in early February, I think, anyway. And then early March, so 2 weeks, somewhere beginning of March, near my birthday, we found out that it worked, and I was pregnant. And the most bizarre part of that was it happened right after I came to a place in my coaching journey and in my personal healing where I had let it go, where I was not identifying anymore with getting pregnant. That wasn't my identity. If it happened, it happened. If it didn't, there were other plans for me. I let, I mean, I really let that go. And I just remember I had started, I had hired a coach, and I had put it out there that I was going to do 100 coaching sessions in 90 days, and I was just going full out on my purpose, and I was, I mean, on fire. Like nothing was going to stop me, and I was so tapped in and aligned, and just like, yes, I have a whole new identity, and I have a whole new purpose. And it was beautiful. And I just remember getting the embryo implanted during that time, being like, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I mean, was I excited about it? Yeah, but I was on a whole new level. My life didn't depend on it. And that's when it happened. And there's so much lesson in that. There's so much to be learned from that. When you just let go, when you can let go, change your story, change your identity, get aligned with your purpose, get aligned with the truth about who you are, and find that joy and passion for living. And then things just fall into place. I knew in my heart I was supposed to have children. One, two, we still want to have another one. That's a whole nother thing. But I knew in my heart, and I fully believe that when you have something on your heart so much, the way I did to have children, it's gonna happen one way or another. If we ended up adopting, we would still have children. It doesn't matter. If it's something, anything in your life, I know for a fact, if it is very strong in your heart, do not give up. It's there for a reason. It's knocking on your door. It wants to be tapped into. But what really wants to happen is for you to get in touch with who you really are. What is your purpose for being here? Because we all have one. We all have one, and it is beautiful. There's no exception. I used to look at everyone around me, compare myself to everyone, and look at people who were doing what I'm doing now and be like, "Oh, I couldn't do that. I'm too screwed up. I've made too many bad decisions. Who's going to listen to me? I'm messed up. I'm scarred." It's just the chatter. It's the chatter in your head. And when I say I believed it was for other people, it wasn't for me, I'm meaning that from the bottom of my heart. I remember thinking, that life just can't be that good. That's great for other people, they can do it, but I'm never going to be free enough to do that. I'm never going to be free enough to be able to support myself and do something I'm really passionate about. It's just not in the cards for me. I wasted too much time. I'm too old for that. I'm too old to have kids, I guess. It's not true. It's not true for one single person. And if you're watching this and you can relate to that, I'm here to tell you it's not true. It's just all the lies and the thoughts that you're conditioned to thinking. I don't care what your circumstances are. I don't. It's available to everyone, no matter what it is. And part of why I'm really passionate about coaching is helping people get there. I've been there. I know what's possible. And I know what it feels like to feel like nothing is possible. I can say with 100% certainty, and not just blowing smoke here, you guys. I'm speaking to you. I can say with 100% certainty that your dream life is available. And I am a coach because I want to help people find that within themselves. I want people to live a happy, joyful life. It is possible. I didn't believe it was, and now I know it is. And in other episodes, I will talk more about some of the other things I've had to overcome, that I had to go through, which I've realized now all just led me to exactly where I am today. I have shifted, and I'm always growing. I'm always going to continue to grow and learn, but I now know like my future that is endless no matter what happens to me, no matter what tries to get in my way. If it's illness, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, I'm currently in end stage kidney failure and I've never been happier. And that's what we all want: joy, peace, happiness, purpose, a reason to wake up in the morning. And is my life perfect? No. Oh my God. Do I have days where I'm just like, well, I'm off track today? Yes. Do I get in my head all the time? Yes. But I do have tools and tactics that I use to try to keep me centered, and I know how to come back. I've learned that through lots of experiences, through coaching school. I mean, it really changed everything for me. And not everyone has to go through coaching school. I'm not saying that that's what you need. It was what I needed. But but what I also want to do is here is just explain a little bit about coaching and what coaching is in general. Um, so coaching can kind of be lots of things. But if we take the broad perspective, this is an easy way to explain it. So if you look at counseling or therapy, counseling and therapy is something that's more or less focuses on the past, and it takes people from that are dysfunctional to functional. And I mean, this is generally speaking, okay? Coaching and counseling can kind of really go in between. But for the most part, counseling therapy is more or less taking people from where they were, from being dysfunctional to functional. And a lot of what it focuses on is your past and digging into your past and understanding what happened here and trying to uncover and unfold how you sort of ended up where you are now, right? And that's very beneficial. It's very healing. So, coaching takes people who are functional to optimal. So, it takes you from where you are now and identifying where you want to be. And a coach helps you walk through that process. It's an accountability partner. It's really just a lot of questions to uncover what's really going on underneath the surface. What stories are you telling yourself? What limiting beliefs are you walking in that are keeping you from your greatness, that are keeping you from moving forward? And it's just a progression, and it's like it's amazing. Um, and it helps people just if there's a dream or a goal you have, or you see yourself over here, you envision yourself here, you want to be here, but for some reason you keep staying here, hire a coach. It's a tremendous process. I mean, I have so many coaches. Anyway, it's beautiful, and it just takes you from where you are now to where you want to be. And it's a wonderful journey, and it's life changing. And I love to use the word unstuck. If you're stuck, hire a coach to get you unstuck. I mean, I just look back at myself and I'm like, God, I was so stuck in the mud. And I didn't even know it really. I knew I was miserable, but I had no idea what was really possible. And that's what a coach helps you do. It helps you understand what is possible for you because you just can't see it. You know, we walk around with these lenses like this, and all we can see is what's right in front of us, when in reality, all of this is possible. All of this is completely possible for everyone, no matter what your physical limitations are. So, Anyway, that's coaching. That's my story about how I ended up becoming a coach. And I'm so glad I was able to share that with you. I'm so happy for other episodes to come. If you have any questions or comments, please comments below. Love it. I really want to make this interactive. And I'm so happy that you were on this journey with me today. Thank you for listening. Please share this video if there's someone who needs to hear it. I love you. Have a beautiful day. Mwah.